These have been a hot commodity this year. They are new to the market. They don't stay in stock long. And thanks to Dawn at Atoya Studio, which is a US distributor of the Gansai Tambi watercolors, I was able to receive these. Huge thank you to Dawn for sending these over. So full transparency, I did not purchase these with my own money, but I can't wait to open these up and give them a try and share them with you. So let's get right to it. Now, at first glance, these look like they're very similar colors. However, I assure you that once we add water, they are not. They're all named with Aurora. So there is Aurora Red, Pink, Orange, Blue, and Violet. And these are the color numbers up here. Make sure that you guys can actually see those and read them. And then, of course, they send along this extra pan, and this extra pan is for mixing, and there's a reason for that. I think the draw to these paints are because of the way that they have this beautiful separation and this dreamy effect once you put them on paper. And they say that the degree of color separation and the blurring may vary depending on the type of paper used. Today, like I always do, I am going to be swatching these on my Be Inspired watercolor paper. I will have a link to everything in the description. At the time I'm recording this, they are actually back in stock on Amazon. How long will they remain in stock? I can't say, but as of right now, they were in stock. I was trying to hold this because I was sent these a little while ago, and I've been holding the video because I didn't want to share them with you and then say, but you can't get them, because how much fun would that be? None at all. So we're going to take a look at these colors. And there's also something important to note, because this pan, they send this along, and I said that was for a reason. And it says it's to be used for dissolving the colors in water. Now, they do say that you'll enjoy greater changes in the color by dissolving them in lots of water and letting the colors separate on the palette before painting. So we're going to look at them. That's why I have these little dishes out here, so that I can really mix each up with some water. And we're going to look at that. We're going to look at these straight on the paper, and we're going to look at them when we've followed the instructions and let them dissolve in plenty of water first and see how they work that way. So let's really get these going. I'm going to just give them a spritz, wake those up, and I'm going to grab a pipette so that we can put some water in our little dishes here. I'm going to try to keep these up. So they'll be in the same order. It's going to be red, pink, orange, blue, and violet. Okay, and then I have my paper here, and I will go ahead and mark this out. We'll just kind of make a column for each, and we're just going to see how these react to different things. Already, when I put the mist on there, can you see some of the color changes are starting to happen? Immediately, violet is looking very violet. Red, pink, orange. There's some different qualities here. I am seeing some blue showing up in the water droplet of the blue. So we're going to see what can happen. If you've seen these on other channels, I found them very, very interesting. And I was curious because they say granulating colors. But what I've seen on YouTube is more a lot of separating colors. Today, I'm really curious to see if they not only separate, but do have that granulation as well. And this is a paper that I usually see granulation happen on really easily. So that's why I chose this today for what we're doing. Let me grab a pipette and we will fill these with some water. All right. So I'm just going to take my pipette and put about half in each, because they did say lots of water. So that was about half of my pipette fully filled, and then half in each one. Is it exactly the same? I'm sure, probably not. This isn't an exact science. There's human error involved here. Okay, first, I have my size 8 round Princeton Velvet Touch brush. And first thing I'm going to do is come into the Aurora Red And let's just look at these wet on dry. I shouldn't have rinsed that out. I should have put it right in my water. So let's go ahead and grab some of this Aurora Red, place it into lots of water. So it did say lots of water. Okay, so that was just one. Let's do it twice. All right. There's our Aurora Red. Next, let's go to the Aurora Pink and do the same thing. We're just going to grab some from our pan and swatch it out here on dry paper. Immediately I see, like, I can see a blue. You can see it here as well. Hopefully that's coming across for you guys. Like, if I push back up, I expose more of that blue. There's our Aurora Pink. Don't rinse it out in the thing. Rinse in here. Again, we'll do this twice. So there's once, twice. Okay. And I'm going to let these sit as we continue our little swatching here. Next up is Aurora Orange. The same. Let's just grab some of this and do this wet on dry. It's very brown looking with green coming underneath versus the first two that looked like they had blue coming underneath. Very interesting. And as I'm doing this, I'm trying to think, like, when would I use this? How would I use these paints? Is this just a novelty item? Or can I think of practical application where I'm going to want these paints? And again, I rinsed my brush out. I shouldn't have done that. One. There's some air bubbles in that pan. See, it looks very brown at first. All right. Next up, we have Aurora Blue. It is a nice dark, still looks kind of purple, but I'd say definitely blue. That's a pretty color. And the blue, like if I push this back up, the blue you see is different from these. These almost look like a blue greenish color. This definitely looks green, and that definitely looks more blue. I could see me using that in like some skies for sure. These are definitely interesting. Oh, I did it again. There's one, two. Right. I'm seeing on the edges here some separation happening. I don't know how long you have to let them set in lots of water. We're gonna test it all. And then last we have Aurora Violet. Ooh, as soon as I bring that brush over, that gets very, it's not showing up when I look up at my monitor, but it is very, very bright. Very bright. Definitely violet in color. Wow, that is definitely violet. If I push back, seeing a little bit of the blue like what I have over here. Okay, so that's them wet on dry paper. Huh. Well, that was almost half the time I remember to do that. All right, so we're gonna go one. And it did say lots of water, so we went with lots of water. And I would absolutely let these dry out in these dishes if I didn't use them all. And see, so now let's go ahead and wet the paper. And let's try them wet on wet and see, because remember, I'm looking for granulation do they granulate and separate, or are these just separating versus, you know, where I'm not seeing that granulation? So we have our Aurora Red. I like how they kind of take off in the wet wash on the page. So lots of water. This should give us our granulating, if it's going to granulate, and allow them to separate some. So we'll see. And we have the Aurora Pink. So I am just lots of water. That's pretty color. And they say red. To me, that looks very pink. This is looking very purpley, but that's okay. They can call them whatever colors they would like. Then we have Aurora Orange. And I am definitely seeing, like, especially in this one, where before it was very brownish looking, it's starting to look more green at the top. So Aurora Orange. I don't think I had very much on my brush. Bring a little bit more into that. It also does not feel as wet as the other two. There we go. Aurora Blue. Look what's happening back here. Are you seeing that? And now that I see that, I'll say yes. I hadn't seen it in a lot of the videos where I thought, oh, that has a lot of granulation. But what I'm seeing right here definitely has granulation. So at least as far as the Aurora Red is concerned, definitely. I'm starting to see it here as well in the Aurora Pink. So I'm loving that. All right, let's check out this Aurora Blue, Wet and Wet. Oh, look at that. Look at it travel. I love watching watercolors travel through a wet wash. Oh, I could see this, like I said, in a sky. It's blue, but it's definitely more like purple Payne's Gray leaning. At least in the immediate when you first put it down. We'll see how it changes. Okay. Then is our Aurora Violet. I cannot wait to see how this one does, because I could picture this one actually with like a Payne's Gray, sky to paint an Aurora. Ooh, look at how that one's separating. These are looking really neat. So I have to be honest, at first I just thought with everything that I was seeing that these were like separating colors, not necessarily granulating colors, but I sit here corrected because these are definitely showing not only the separation but also the granulation. And if you've been around the channel, you know I love granulating colors. Where would I use this Aurora Red? I have no idea. I really don't know. And it's kind of pooling because the paper tipped. But look at that. You see the way the colors have separated? Look at those. Oh, so far. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite yet? These are interesting. And now see, now that I see this, I'm like, okay, what looked like a beautiful night sky at first doesn't so much in the wet wash, because look at the orange that comes through under the blue. These are fascinating. All right, I'm seeing things separating on these, and I'm going to try to lift them up very carefully. And I'm not going to go wet and wet with them. First, I'm going to go from the dish without disturbing a lot and put a swatch in. And then I'll do it wet on wet again. So kind of painting from the dishes, wet on dry, and then wet on wet. So we have a similar thing as here, so this is straight from the pan, and then these will be from the dishes after they have been able to set. And let me just show you As we're seeing, this almost looks like greenish. And do you see that? You see how it's separated? So I don't want to move that too much. These are doing the same. Like I'm seeing blue out here on the edge. If I tip that ever so slightly, see how it changes? Yeah. Wow. Same here. Look at how bright that is. Same with here. Same with here. The colors are definitely like one color is floating to the top and the other color is sinking towards the bottom. So we're going to, tapping my brush off, make sure that's nice and clean. Tapping it off on my sponge that I always keep up here, just so that it doesn't have a lot of moisture in it, and I'm just pulling this color because I want to try this wet on dry. And I don't want to disturb what's in the dish too much. That's really interesting. So just touching once, touching twice to let my brush absorb that color. And when I push, it's like I'm leaving behind the one color, pushing forward the other color. So that technique, I could see that being interesting. Like, I don't know, maybe if you were painting like some flower petals or something. Let's see this one. Yeah, look at that. It's like you almost leave behind one color and push over the other color. So for example, I don't know, we'll just see like part of a flower. I'm not seeing much of the pink. Well, there is some pink here. We'll just kind of let that do its thing. All right, how about if we look at these wet and wet? These are going to be very wet, so I'm just wetting this part of the paper. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to drop them in pretty quickly. I want this to kind of absorb in first. I don't want to take a big pool of color and put it into a big pool of water. Okay, so again, grabbing that brush, grabbing that sponge and drying my brush off. All right, I'm going to come into the other side. So an area I have not disturbed yet. Just kind of roll up some of that color and let's just drop it in here. And let's see, does that give us a much different result than say this did? Is it worth it to make a big pan like this, or can you just do it right on your paper? Wow, look at that orange. You definitely get much more vibrant. That's so much more vibrant. Although I do see that vibrancy in this one. That is so interesting. I'm still sitting here thinking, but what would I use this for? Because I know somebody's going to ask me in the comments, but what would you paint with that? You know, what would you use that for? As of yet, I don't really have an answer. Look at that bright, bright pink. But I'm still seeing it. I'm seeing it here and how this dried. Now, if you just love granulating colors and you just wanted to do these, Diane Anton covered these a while back. Like when they first came out, they were sent to her and she covered them. And I loved the way that she used them. So she just took them, embraced them for what they are, put down swatches of color, and then she went and embellished on top of them. With doodles or whatever, and they were gorgeous. They were so pretty. And again, just embracing them for what they are. Now, would I use these every day? I don't know. Oh, there was another thing that I wanted to try. I'm going to grab individual little pieces so we can do them one at a time, because I want to put down a bunch of the liquid and I want to move it around like this. So we've kind of let it set on the paper, but I want to actually move it around on the paper and see what we can get from that, because I think that's going to be really interesting as well. Okay, I have some paper and I labeled them so each one will have its color name on it. We're just going to take a bunch of this paint. These are dry papers. And we're just going to take a bunch of this and we're going to put it down on our paper. We're just going to do a nice big circle. I'm putting a bunch because I want this to flow. Just completing where it's wet so that I can get that to move. And I'm just going to do this until I see it absorb into the page where I can't really make it flow very much anymore. Will it be exciting? Will it be different than these? We're going to find out, but as it's doing its thing, I'm going to do it again for another one, and I'll just keep speeding this up because you don't want to watch me sit here and just circle paint. I'm going to move this one because it's pretty much, things have stopped moving and I can set it aside. I'll leave those there to do their thing. But I thought maybe we'll just have some fun, do some mark making with these. I have no idea what this is going to turn out to be, what it's going to look like. Just kind of intuitively painting and having a little bit of fun. So I'm going to just kind of speed this along and we'll see what we end up with. Okay, so you've seen me play around with these a little bit now. I used up all of the Aurora Red that I had mixed. I almost used up most of the other ones as well. And my first impression is that, yes, these are a novelty. There's no pigment information. There's no, I'm looking at these colors and I'm thinking, I'm not even remotely asking, could these be light fast? The answer, I think, is most likely no. Does that mean that you can't have fun playing with these? Absolutely not. These were so much fun to play with. Let's look at our swatches first. So we can definitely, I see where using these wet on dry can really give you some interesting colors that I could see using maybe in regular everyday painting. On some landscapes. Again, this was originally this was like, hey, skies, but then it started doing this and I was like, well, no, not necessarily so much. But couldn't you see something like this or like this mixed in with, say, a neutral tint to make an aurora in like a galaxy painting? Oh, I would absolutely use these, like, especially in my sketchbook playing around. And that's something that I'm certainly going to have to do in the future. If it's something that you're interested in, please drop me a comment and let me know. Next, when we look at them wet into wet, straight from the pans, these gave the best granulating results. So if you want these to granulate, you need a wet wash on your paper and bring them straight from the pan into that wet wash. And that's where definitely, look at this one. I love that granulation. Absolutely gave the best granulation in that situation. Some really interesting movement and separation when they were allowed to sit in a lot of water and kind of separate and then dropping those into wet washes. Again, as you put them down like wet on dry paper, as you push, you're kind of leaving behind one of the colors and pushing through the other color. Same when we did it up here. You saw as I pushed the brush backwards, I was kind of revealing that other color. So you could use that to your advantage as you're painting. I thought those were quite interesting. And then you just saw me playing with, as I went to dry something on my two that we'll talk about in a second, the two quick little paintings that I did, I noticed that these colors are not only moving around easily, but they're kind of leaving behind some interesting deposits, which is kind of what I was trying to get here, but I didn't necessarily achieve that in these. We're going to talk about those in a second. But look at how, just with a heat tool or a hairdryer, you could create some beautiful abstract paintings with these. I encourage you to give that a try. Imagine putting down a really wet wash of the color and then taking your heat tool and just pushing this paint around to let it dry and see what comes of it. I think you could create some really interesting abstract works of art with that. And yeah, let me know if you're going to give that a try. I think I definitely am going to. My interest got piqued a lot right here. Now, I'm not a floral artist. This was just playing with a bunch of floral shapes to see what we could get. I could come back over this with some line work if I wanted to, maybe embellish with like some metallics or something like that. I had fun with some splatters, and really I was just trying to see, can you use these in some floral work? And I think, yeah, you could make some fun paintings with these, doing some floral type pieces. So let me know, is this an idea that piqued your interest with these colors? And then of course I had to do something that would speak to my personal style and create a little miniature landscape. I used each of the colors. I went ahead and used the Aurora blue in my sky, and then came in with the Aurora red and violet, followed up by, the Aurora pink and violet, followed up by the Aurora red, and then the Aurora orange from my foreground, because that would be the warmest color I thought I had, and bringing that forward. And then I kind of dabbled in some little speckles to, make it look like maybe there's flowers in a field there. And I like it. I think that's pretty cool. I would do some experimenting with some others. I came back with a damp, not wet, just a damp brush. And these are very, very easy to reactivate. And I was able to kind of move some of that surface color on the top to kind of add like shadow effects and things like that on my hill that's, not so far in the distance. Is this one that you might like to give a try, or a way that you might use these paints? I'm really curious to have a conversation in the comments and see what you guys think. Let's look at when I circled the colors. I really had no idea what to expect, but one thing that I kind of noticed on all of them is whatever their color was, Aurora red, I ended up with most of that red in the center. Here we can see the pink, we can see the orange. The blue I would say is the exception, because we're seeing the blue more to the outside. I think that one wasn't quite as wet as the rest of them, so maybe that had something to do with it, but we can certainly see that blue going on here. And then that violet, it's gorgeous. And look at the ring around it. And the granulation, again, this really shined when I did from the mixtures, and I didn't pre-wet the paper. I just pulled it on here and kind of, moved it around. Look at how it's like almost electrifying, that violet. It's so pretty. Could you imagine painting flower petals like that? Look at the texture. You don't even have to paint the texture of like the veining in your petals. It's right there for you. I could certainly see this, the Aurora pink even being great for painting flower petals. What can you think? What ideas have been inspired after you see these for things that you could paint? Are these a novelty that you say, just not my cup of tea? And you know what? That's okay if it is, because it's not going to be for everyone. I am thrilled that I have them. I will definitely be using them some more to see like, what else could I do with these? Yeah, I think they're really interesting. I'm pretty fascinated by how the colors separate. Of course, I love the granulation and separation that you could get with, like, say, the Schminke super granulating colors and other mixes that I have created with granulating colors. So let's take a peek at those little dishes. Again, I'll link everything in the description below. And see, this one, we still have the most, but look at how when we put them in plenty of water, the colors will separate. I could even tip this and grab that bright pink and paint with that part. Or once I have them like this, I could grab some of that blue, paint with that part. And of course, the mixture of the two together. These are interesting, to say the least. I am thrilled. Thank you so much to Dawn and Itoya Studio for sending these on for me to try. I really appreciate that. I like them. I'm not disappointed that I have them. If I would have purchased them, and I was going to purchase them myself. In fact, I had reached out asking questions because I wanted to know, where can I purchase these? And Don was nice enough to say that he would send on a set for me to try out. I was going to purchase them. And had I spent my own money, I still would not have been disappointed that I did so, because these are really interesting and I can't wait to see more ways that I can paint with them. My one that I'm most excited to try is something like this, with a heat tool and just playing with the really wet washes of colors and how the heat tool to dry them and push that paint around can make some abstract art. I'm really interested in doing something like that. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, hit that thumbs up button, put a like on the video, and let me know in the comments that you want to see that in the near future. I definitely think that those of you who like to paint florals will enjoy this. These, again, I don't think that they're light, fast paints, but how beautiful would something like that be on a card? If you like to make cards to give to people, just the spatter, I'm loving the granulation, just the different effects that you can get. I don't know. You guys will have to let me know in the comments what you think. Do you have these? Do you love them? I love this little landscape. This is going to go, I think, right behind me in my backdrop for a little while so that everybody can see it in the live streams. I'm liking this one. Yeah, I think that one, I actually have a picture frame with some little small windows. I think this one is actually going to make it into a frame that will eventually get hung up in the house. I love how it looks like a little cloud is coming through here, where I kind of skipped a spot on the paper. And then again over here, I like this one. These definitely, yes, I think they are a novelty, but I think they're fun. And I think that's what they were intended to be. They were intended for you to use your imagination and explore different ways that you can paint with these. 2 thumbs up. I think they've met their goal as far as what these paints are most likely, what I think they're intended for. I can't wait to use them some more. I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I'm going to pop another one up right here that you might like to watch next. In the meantime, my friends, keep creating, and I will see you in a video real soon. Bye, guys.